Well, today we're going to have lamb and vegetable stew, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to braise the vegetables and the lamb in the oven. Got the lamb for a bargain. So the first thing I do, a bit of olive oil. A lot of people say they don't like olive oil. Well, you use whatever you like. I always use extra virgin olive oil. So I've cut the carrots up just in chunks. Remember, this is going to be a stew when it's finished, so I can cut them even finer later. But now I'm adding, I had 2 large onions. I've cut them up to put them in. So what I'm doing is building up a layer of the vegetables to go in there. What I'm not doing is putting in potatoes, because I'll be putting them in at the end. When the stew's ready, I'll just add the potatoes and just cook it for another 25 minutes on simmering. So here are some garlic, little morsels of magic when you have the stew later. You can cut them up finer if you like. In this process of being in the oven for about 2.5 to 3 hours, it's all dependent on how the meat is, if it's tender when you need to stop the cooking. So extra mushrooms I had in the fridge, they're going in. If they weren't there, they wouldn't be going in, but they were there, and I want to use up what I've got. So with that process, what I'll do now is add the meat. You'll see a layer of skin on there. You can mess around and cut it all off if you like, but trust me, during the cooking process, at the end, it just tears away. And so I don't bother. At the end, I'll just be tearing off that little layer of fat, and it'll just come away really easily. And a little extra flavour, you know. Fat is flavour, there's no question about that. So now I'm seasoning this side with salt and pepper. I'll then turn it over, and I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. Like I say, I do stews differently. This is one that I do from time to time. So I'm braising this in the oven, as you'll see. Whereas I do stew differently, you can do what you like. The good thing about cooking is that you're the master of your kitchen. There are no rules or recipes for me. I just, as I go along, I make it up. So with that, I'm going to add out of the garden. We've got some nice rosemary and thyme. Now these in the braising process will cook down. In fact, all you'll pull out at the end is little sticks. And be sure to pull them out. You don't want to chomp on one of those. But the flavour they emit through the braising process is magnificent. So that's what I've put in there, is the rosemary and the thyme. I've added a little extra olive oil on top. Now what I'm going to do is I cut up a leek I had to put in there. And this will melt down beautifully during the process, but get that beautiful leek flavour. A lot of people don't eat leeks. I don't know why. They're absolutely magnificent as far as the flavour goes. And I always generally use them when I'm making a lamb soup or a lamb stew. And I had one, so I'm going to use it. Now this is just a litre, or about 2 and a bit pints of chicken stock. I like chicken stock with lamb. You can use beef if you want to. You can use lamb stock if you can find it. I've never been able to find it. So it's chicken for me. Again, this is going to be a stew when it's finished. This is the braising liquid. And of course, being chicken stock and all those ingredients in there, absolutely magnificent. The flavour is superb. Now what I'm going to do is make a little bain-marie. I'm going to cover the pan with tin foil, and then I'm going to put it in the oven at about 160 degrees Celsius, which I think is about 320 Fahrenheit. You can work it out. It's about 160 for about 2.5 to 3 hours. It all depends. After a couple of hours, I'll take it out and have a look. And if I think, no, it needs a little bit more, put it back in the oven. But I think about 2.5 hours is what it will take to do this. So in the oven, and then it comes out after about 2.5 hours, and it just falls apart. It's beautiful. I'm just showing you the texture of the lamb. I've already taken off that little film of fat that you saw at the start, so you don't see that. I've already removed that. Just with a pair of tongs, it just came away easily. Now I'm going to cut all that meat up and mix it in with the rest of the vegetables. Then it's going into my big pot. The reason for this, again, I said at the start, I'm going to add some potatoes. There's probably going to be a ratio of about 1/3 of the volume will be potatoes, and 2/3 of this. So it's got all, like I say, it's got all those flavours from the herbs, garlic, leek, onions, carrots, and then we're going to add the potatoes. The reason why I do it, I've known in the past that if you start putting potatoes in with what we just did, they get a bit mushy. And I want a little bit of firmness to the potatoes, still cooked, you know what I mean. So that's why I add the potatoes at the end. Makes it easier. Look at all that beautiful textured juices. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a stir, and then I'm going to get to the process of cutting up. I think I used about 4 potatoes, these medium potatoes, and I've sped it up a bit because it's pretty boring watching people just cut potatoes. But to give you an idea of the sizes of the chunks that I'm going to use, that's why I added this little bit of video, so you can see that. And it's sort of an Irish stew, I suppose. It's not been cooked with Guinness or anything, it's just chicken stock. But like I say, the magic of cooking is that I believe there are no rules. There are simply textures and flavours that you work with. You can get a recipe if you like, but you don't have to stick to it. You do what you want to do. That's the idea of discovering flavours and textures in your cooking. And then you'll hit upon something that you really like and you'll do it all the time. But I tend to change. Like I say, there was mushrooms in the fridge, so they went in. A leek in the fridge, so that went in. So I'm just adding the potatoes now. And like I say, it's about 1/3 of the volume. In other words, there's 2/3 of the lamb and vegetables. And, well, this is a vegetable potato, and about 1/3 extra in potatoes. The reason for this is that gives it a good balance. Now I'm going to, even though the rest of the pot is seasoned because of the braising process, the potatoes have not been. So I'm just adding a little bit extra pepper, and I'll put a little bit of salt on there as well. And that will give the extra seasoning, because if you just put the potatoes in there, it sort of zaps some of the flavouring out of there. So I'm seasoning the potatoes. Just give it a quick stir. I've got it on a medium-low heat. What I'll be doing is just simmering that for about 25 minutes. And then after the simmering process, as you can see, it's simmering away there. It smells delicious. I'll be back with the end product to show you, and we'll see you then. All right, all done. Smells magnificent. Man, I'm looking forward to this. A little extra bit of juice. So that is my braised lamb and vegetable stew. And it's going to taste fantastic. I might add a little bit of chili sauce to it. But anyway, that's my process of making braised lamb and vegetable stew. You do it your way. Let's be frank. I did it my way. If you have been, thanks for watching.